2026, and I am calling to order the meeting of the Community Relations Subcommittee of the Arlington School Committee. All members who are participating in the meeting, all school committee members are present, along with Superintendent Holman. Okay, the first order of business approval of the April 2nd, 2026 draft community relations minutes. May I have a motion? Motion by Liz Exton, second by Crystal Haynes Capathorn. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yeah.
Approved 3-0. Okay. School committee appointment to the Rainbow Coalition. The first person, and this is the first item on the agenda, and thankfully you are here, Megan. So Megan, you can unmute, and we'll kind of give you, so just as I said in the meeting, as I said when we spoke, you and I, their process is this committee reviews candidates, and then am I looking at the wrong camera? It's like being on your show. I look at the wrong camera the whole damn time. Producer's like, no, it's not there, you idiot. So what we're gonna do here is this committee reviews it, and then it goes to the full school committee.
Oh, wow. Okay, super.
Yeah, it's a process. I'm not there on the 11th because I'm going to something else, but these guys will carry the ball and advocate for you. And you're welcome to go. The next meeting is on the 11th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, and you'll be on the agenda. Okay, any questions? So maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself, Megan, and what got you interested in the Rainbow Coalition.
Sure thing. I mean, I guess briefly, I am a member of the LGBTQ community, and I am also a longtime Arlington resident. I've lived here since 2008, and I also have two kiddos in the Arlington public school system, one at Bishop and one at Gibbs. And I have been looking for, I think particularly in this political moment, have just been looking for opportunities to meaningfully engage in and volunteer to do something that would kind of help advance my values. And I did a lot of thinking and soul searching about what I wanted to do with sort of my extra capacity and time and skill sets. And I landed on this because I feel like it's so tangible. I have benefited, and my family has benefited so much from the programming that the Rainbow Commission has put together. Over the years, we go to the school pride event every year, and we love it. And it makes me so happy when I see the sidewalk chalking and all the other programming. And so it just seems like a natural fit to be able to, use some of my time and energy and skills towards something that would make a really tangible benefit for our community. So that's really the crux of it.
Got it.
I'm happy to expand on anything or answer any questions you all have, but that's why I'm here.
Who wants to go first with questions?
Thank you, Megan. It's nice to meet you. I'm Liz Exton. I'm one of the subcommittee members for community relations. This is exciting. Thank you for applying. We appreciate your interest. I'm just curious if there are any topics or events, or what do you sort of see as you join the commission, ideas that you might bring to add to what's already happening?
Yeah, so I've talked a little bit about this with Paloma and Molly because they were asking me similar questions too, and I was kind of like, well, you guys have been sitting on this commission for a while. Like, what do you see as some of the needs, right? And what are some of the opportunities? And that's kind of where some of the school committee or school crossover stuff came, especially because I have kids who are in the school system, and so I think we are in a place where it seems like the commission has done some events like that are kind of at the plug and play sort of level right now, like it so it sounds like if we have capacity, we could try some new things. The queer market, I hope you all were able to go this past weekend. It was so awesome, and it was so exciting to see Keelan just rock that event. So I think that'll be another, like, I hope that's something that I can help support Keelan with in the coming year, and that gets to be sort of an annual tradition. Um, I have actually never been to the community, like the school welcoming, like at the beginning of the year, the welcoming kind of events to LGBTQ families that are hosted, but I love that idea. I don't know if they're, yeah, how consistent they are. I think we tend to do a lot of events and programming around Pride, but it would be nice to see sort of more of like a drumbeat throughout the year, just because there is so much that happens during Pride um, month. And um, and I would love to hear. So I basically I don't have like a I'd really like to see this done. I have some things that um I feel like I'm learning a lot, and I have only been to one commission meeting so far, so I'm kind of still the new kid on the block in terms of learning what we've done in the past and what's been helpful and what hasn't and what's resonated. And even just the breadth of the programming with like the queer prom was so cool. Um, and even cooler that my kid learned about it, not from me, but like organically through her friend group. And I was like so psyched about that. Um, so I'm not coming in with a like, I really want to, I don't have like a huge agenda, or like a big thing that I want to see happen, but I want to be supportive of the programming that's happening. I want to especially focus on like how we can support families and youth in particular, just because that seems to me like um, a place where Arlington can kind of really lean in. And also, I think, particularly right now, young people just need kind of all of the love that they can get, especially if they have any sort of marginalized identity. So, um, I I feel like I'm rambling a little bit here, but I guess I'll just name one last thing, which is that I do like my day job is as a policy advocate and organizer, and I work for a nonprofit. So I do have that kind of bent to me. And so I do pay attention to like policy things that are coming across, like local policy items and stuff like that. So I know that the commission is not, we can sort of weigh in certain ways on that, but it's not necessarily a political appointment. But that's another kind of interest area that I have.
Very good.
Thank you.
Awesome. Megan, hi, how are you? I'm Priscilla Haynes Coppenthorne. I also don't know if I should look at the owl or look at the.
No, no,
So,
yeah, this is
excuse me
great. Nice to meet you.
So you mentioned that you became activated because of these times that we live in and things like that. What excites you about joining the commission and adding your particular skill set to the commission and perhaps expanding their work?
Yeah, so I mean, I could talk a lot about that. But I guess just to say, like, one of my one of my thoughts is that, you brought in the sort of this political moment. I think a lot of what we're experiencing in this country comes down to how we relate to one another just on like a human level and at the community level. And I think that's where real resilience and strength and kind of alignment with our values is actually really possible and feasible. And so, um, inclusion and belonging and all of these things that are, federal government unfortunately is not prioritizing, but I think our town has an opportunity to continue to prioritize and is prioritizing. And I want to support that desperately at this moment, not just for my family and my kids, but for all the current families of Arlington. And also, there's a lot of migration happening in our country right now. And we are becoming more divided, unfortunately, and people are moving from one place to another. And so just really thinking about how can we make Arlington just a place that feels really inclusive, where people have a sense of belonging, where our differences are celebrated. I think that's the kind of place where I want to live, and I think that's the kind of place where a lot of people want to live. And so I want to be a part of helping to build that community. And I bring a lot of kind of organizing um, skill sets. I bring, with that comes communication skill sets and just a lot of kind of people stuff. I know how to navigate government systems and policy systems and make change. Um, and I guess also just like a lot of heart too. I really care about this. And so I would bring that in spades as well.
Awesome.
Great, thank you very much, Megan. My one question is, I don't really know the rhythm of the Rainbow Coalition work and meetings, but I'm just curious to know if you've kind of set aside enough, or you have enough time in your schedule to do all that they would ask of you.
Yeah. Yeah, so they meet monthly. And I think they just changed when they meet from to a different day of the week, but I have the calendar from Paloma. Yeah, and I do. I mean, as I said, this is important work, and this is something that I've kind of identified as how I can show up personally in this particular moment, and so I'm very committed to that, and have this full support of my spouse and my family to do that. So, yes.
Good, okay, great. Any further questions? Dr. Holman, please.
Megan, good to see you. I think we've
Good to
met
see you too.
before,
Yeah.
a couple of at an event or two.
Yeah. Good to
As a
see you.
parent, you too, you have the vantage point of like having had kids in the schools. I'm curious
Yeah.
if there are learning opportunities you think that like the schools have, which we're very open to, and what
Yeah.
partnership opportunities you think there may be between the task force of which is like associated with the coalition and
Yeah.
the schools.
Yeah.
Just based on your experience as a
Yeah.
family member who has been in schools now for, I guess it'd be 6 or 7 years
Yeah.
with your kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Norman. Yeah. I think when we first started in the schools, when our older kiddo was little, we had there was a lot as we were getting to know the schools. There was things like, how can we make sure that the libraries have really diverse books in them? And we were part of a group that helped get a PTO grant to buy some more books in the libraries, or having these kinds of conversations with our kids teachers. um so so and I feel like there's so much that Arlington is doing right. Like, I remember going to pick up my kid at Gibbs a couple months ago, and there was just this awesome kid sign on the wall about like trans people slay or something like that. It was like clearly like a sixth grade message, but it was just so awesome to be able to see that. And so I see a lot of those kinds of, it's like all these little things, right? And I see a lot of those little things. I think there is probably more opportunity to help newer families to town, or to help kind of build more community. Like, I know when we first started in kindergarten, we requested that our kid be placed, if there were any other same-sex couple families, that we be placed in the same kindergarten class. And there was actually three other kids in addition to our kiddo. And so those people have become like an important part of our community. And now we've kind of, so that's been that kind of thing, like just helping to build some of those connections, I think. But as I said, I love the school pride. And I think maybe there's more opportunity for us to do, a little bit more, not just during June. So, but I feel like mostly what is happening in the schools is really good stuff. So that's the
great.
feedback I'd have. Yeah, yeah.
And I like the idea of like things that can build some community, particularly for families new to town. So I look forward to thinking about that a little more, maybe with you.
Great. Yeah. And if you all have things that have been on your radar or I'd love to hear about them too, and would love to just hear like how the person sitting in this role can be an effective conduit between the school committee and the Rainbow Commission too. But I don't mean to take over questions if we're not there.
No, you can ask questions of us, please. We're
Okay.
gonna end with that. What question do you have for us? And that's a good question for Liz Exton to answer.
No, I mean, I think that as sort of the school committee appointee to the Rainbow Commission, we certainly want to hear back from you as you're hearing from community members about things that are happening. And also, there's opportunities that maybe annually, biannually for mostly the Rainbow Task Force, but there are certainly members of the Rainbow Commission that are a part of that to provide give a presentation to the school committee around things that the commission is doing, that the task force is doing, and sort of similarly to the question that Dr. Holman just asked you, how are things going and what can the school and the school committee from a policy perspective do to continue to support all the community members in Arlington.
Yeah, I think as we work toward making sure that transparency and that there's a lot of two-way communication with our commissions boards, it'll be really important that you see like us as also a resource of connection to get up to date. I know, if you're a busy parent, it's hard to follow all of our meetings and all of the content and things like that. And also like to make sure you stay in touch with us as to how we can better support you whether it's guidance, showing up to the events, of course, and those kinds of things as well.
Yeah, if you ever feel like there's an issue, that the committee should discuss, you can always email the superintendent, and the chair, which right now is Laura Gittleson. But yeah, you can always say, look, this is an issue that came up in the community or in our meetings. We're not sure if we should discuss it with the school committee or not. And then the superintendent and the chair would figure that out.
Super.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, okay. Any other questions for our candidate? May I have a motion to recommend Megan Rising to the full committee for approval as a member of the Rainbow Coalition?
So moved.
A second. Any further discussion? This is your chance, Megan, to stop it.
No, I'm thrilled.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, no. There's no no's. It's a unanimous vote. So your name goes to the school committee. Dr. Diggins, our administrative assistant, will put your information in the packet for the meeting on the next week's meeting on the 11th. I won't be there, but Liz Exton will represent the subcommittee and make sure you get a fair hearing. If you want to come to the meeting online or in person, there'll be a link for the meeting online.
Great.
And if you want to come by in person, you're welcome to. I don't know what time it's going to be on the agenda. Is it not going to go to
usually early?
Yeah. So usually it's early in the agenda.
Yeah, I'd like to try to go.
Yeah. Okay. If you can try to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Super. Great.
All right. Terrific.
Well, thank you all so much. Really nice to meet and connect with all of you. And I'm going to top off, but take care. And thank you so much, all of you, for your work. Thank you.
Thank you for volunteering for this role. Okay, next we have the Human Rights Commission, and Corm. You responded to my email exchange as Corm. So is that how it?
Yes.
Is that how it?
Yeah. So my name, so one word is quite long. So people call me Corm. It's much easier. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you figured that out in the exchange. That's you sized me up really well and said just call me Corm. So I'm going to go with that. Okay, so Corm, welcome. You're a candidate for the Arlington Human Rights Commission. We're going to figure out after this which seat you take. There's 2 seats that we get to appoint, and the first thing I'd like you to do is sort of give you a few minutes at the beginning of this conversation to indicate why you're interested in the position. Then the members of the committee will introduce themselves and ask you some questions, and the superintendent asks questions as well.
Okay. So yeah, so
All right.
you can call me Guam. So I'm a scientist at MGH and Harvard Medical School, and I also a parent and Arlington resident. So which this give me an opportunity to learn more about our community. So I want to give my commitment to contribute to the community on this human rights issue or even the education part of it. As my son at Thompson School, which I sometimes volunteer there to see how the kid and teacher and the family go together as a community there. And by my observing that when we as a parent and mostly immigrant, we do not really get well into the society, like the community, like we don't even know well what is the event or something like that. So for example, if a parent do have two job or something like that. As for me, I'm a scientist, which I have much more time, kind of flexible in contribute to the society, like volunteer to my son's school, something like that, and then I can bring my son to library, and most of the time we can find the event that we can go to the library, which can get us to get to know what happening in our community. But I can see the gaps in there where parent, at least in my apartment community, where I see the parent and the student do not have much involvement or participation in the society. Like we as immigrant get into know the community. It's kind of a barrier. One is like our language. Second is get to know the system. Like we from like in our situation, like most of us come from the country we are not free to talk something like that. And with our current situation, this kind of put us in barrier to participate in some event like that. So I want to build a gap to bridge this gap, and I want to learn that in our community in Arlington. And another part that I'm really interested in is the education part as the STEM, like a science, get involved for the younger kids. As I have experience with my son, which I exposed him to library, reading book from different country, like in English, but and also the exposed to some activity of the STEM, like STEM activity, which happen in Thompson as well, but it happened like every 2 year, and interval with the multicultural event. Also, this like a 2 year event. It's kind of for me, it feel quite long in this event happening, and I want to have this more frequently so we can feel belonging as the Arlington resident.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much. We'll open up the questions.
Hi, Corm. I'm Liz Exton. I'm one of the subcommittee members here. Thank you so much for applying. It's exciting to hear your thoughts and the ways that you'll help connect important community members in town. I'm looking at your sort of your interests in these sort of STEM things, and I'm curious if you could just share an example or something about a particular activity or event that you worked on with
Yeah,
students.
so right now I focus on Cambodian community where we have in Lowell, and I am not sure how many Cambodian in Arlington, but I also want to bridge this as other foreigner as well. So what I'm doing, I and my son make a STEM bilingual book. So this like also break down the big language of science for the children. So Rick is my son actually understand the science in more simple way, and actually the story itself is just from him, and I want to make it more accessible to different community. Right now we focus on Cambodian language and English. So because my son more English is much easier for than Cambodian language, which my son now is like get easier learning English but not Cambodian. So by bridge this together, my son can go back and learn more Cambodian language, Khmer. That's much easier. So this even we kind of what I'm doing is just like a family picnic where I bring all the Cambodian family come together as a family. So to bridge the generation, like a generation gap, which and also the cultural sharing and also the literature learning from the book itself. And I want to extend on this to other community where we can have a book sharing about their culture, or even make book itself, because I already have this experience making the book, and it's much easier when people come together to share this. And also in that manner, also a founder of the Khmer STEM Global Network. So this is thinking of the brain drain from our country. Like we mostly higher education will become out looking for better living condition and study also opportunity for the next generation, something like that. But kind of bridge this as the brain circulation, where I try to connect all the Cambodian STEM scientists or the professional, and we can come together sharing through webinar into our community and make it broader to the people in my country and also the community in as a Cambodian American.
Thank you so much. That's super interesting. And I think it's an important skill set and area of interest that would really benefit the commitment. So thanks.
Crystal?
So, as a former member of the Human Rights Commission, always thoughtful around what do folks who are coming into it think the role of the Human Rights Commission is in town? What should they be doing? What should their mission? And even though it's clearly stated, everyone who comes on the board seems to have a little bit of a different thought as to what role it should play in town. And I'm curious what yours is, what your thought on that is.
So right now I'm thinking about bridge the so try to break the barrier for the immigrant family in the town, like into the like an inclusive kind some type of opportunity. Like sometimes we don't know there's an event that actually benefits for us. Like for less the families that I know, they do not take advantage of the library. And I see the library when we go there, there's a lot of event that they happen, and people actually don't take that advantage. But another thing, they do not take that advantage because because they have to work and they don't have time to take the children to the library, something like that. And I want to have this more accessible to the child. Like for the unless for my son, like a primary school, like if we don't have a two job, like myself and my wife have a job, then we won't have enough money to send them for send him for the after school. So during those time, 2:30 to 5 or 6, those time they gonna stay home with their relative or the one of the parent. And I want to have those kind of gap for them, some activity for them, because most of the library activity we need to have an adult to come with the child, and that I want to have that more play out and accessible to those families.
Well, we're very excited. I'm excited about your candidacy. I'm just curious. The global network you started, that's connected with. Did you mention organizations in Lowell? Is that what you're like with CMAA and that sort of thing? Did I hear you say that?
No, this is like
Okay.
a connecting between people. So we don't have any base. So it's just like
Yeah.
we have a group of people. We actually meet one in Philadelphia, where is we have a Cambodian professor at Carnegie College in there, and he's the first idea initiators where we try to connect Cambodian scientists and professional. We haven't made this network before, so we have now have around 100 people in our community as a Cambodian from not only in US but also in other country like France, Europe, and Australia and South Korea come together to share our knowledge and hopefully bring more young people into STEM.
I think you're okay. Thank you. I think you have the potential to bring a great perspective to the Arlington Human Rights Commission. My question is, it's a diverse group of people from what I know, and over the years, I've known many of the commissioners, and I'm just wondering, can you talk a little bit about your skill set of bringing diverse perspectives together? Because my perception is that you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that sometimes the group often needs someone who can kind of bring the group to some sort of a consensus on action to take. And I'm just wondering about your either through the STEM network or your work, how you've done that sort of thing.
So for me, at least from the experience I have to living abroad, mostly in Southeast Asia, like South Korea, Thailand. So those living in those and working in those, study in this area where we have come from the unless in the lab we have different people come together and often we have a dialogue and share experience we have, and those will come with the dialogue that we have together to get into the experience. For example, when I have created this milestone network, so we come together to share like, and let's, for example, like try to find the platform to discuss each other, right? So we have different platforms, Zoom or Google Meet or the Microsoft meeting, something like that. And so we just come together and talk to get through like which one is the best solution for us to use from, and we do as the democracy way is just voting to see where it is and do it on the evidence-based access as a scientist, so we can see and search for that like who will be the audience for this STEM network, and mostly Cambodian student we want to reach out, and then we do the survey say that all the Cambodian people use a Zoom as the platform, so we decide through the evidence base as the final decision.
Got it. Okay, that actually sounds like a very nice process.
Yeah.
That would actually help
Yes.
that would help that group. Dr. Holman.
Corm, thank you for applying, and I think I couldn't agree more that there are a lot of opportunities for us to pull some barriers down for families who are coming from other countries and who are speaking other languages other than English. And that's a gap that we've identified in the schools too, and that we'd love to work with the commission to bridge. And I've been in contact with some of our families on our multilingual learner parent advisory committee who have students, the leaders of that group have their students are no longer like English learners. They are in that they speak another language at home, but they aren't getting services that qualify for that like designation. However, they've stayed on because they see the gap, and they've said the same thing that you just said about the sort of understanding the system gap and having access to the various aspects of the system and knowing what knowing what the benefits are of living here, and kind of knowing what you can access that you didn't realize you could access or that was even here, or that you maybe don't feel like you have access to because of your time. So I don't really have a question for you besides to say I think you're spot on, and I hope we can work together and find opportunities to work on that together, because I think you're right that there are opportunities there, and I would hate for a family to feel like they can't make full use of or feel full belonging in our schools.
Mhm.
And if we can bridge that or build connections for folks, we should do it. So thank you.
Corbin, do you have any questions for us? Is anyone else want to ask a question? Do you have any questions for us, Corbin?
Yeah, actually, for that, it's just like also like I myself, when I try to get to know the system, it's still a barrier. Like there's a lot of things that I kind of like feel like a black hole, right? So it's just
Yeah.
like how we get the best as an immigrant to get to feel in as belonging as the naturally is our place, our family in here. Sometimes we live in as I want to say an island, a bubble. Like as a Cambodian, I will just reach out to Cambodian, something like that, or Asian community for us, something like that. But I want to more like for us to branch out, like to like American or the other country, like how this we gonna do, like what is the role for the leader to kind of have us or open the opportunity for immigrant family.
Um, I mean, I think you're asking a question that we discussed in our senior leadership team today. Dr. Thomas was
Uh,
talking about, she's executive director of access and engagement, and she was talking about affinity groups for next school year and opening up spaces, sort of like what you're describing, either for affinity, as in like families wanting to come together and meet other families with similar backgrounds or similar connections in other parts of the world, or communities where it's, affinity around a thing we want to learn about the schools. So I need to better understand what the resources are in town. And she's trying to think through what's the best way that we share that out. How do we make sure that that information gets to families who maybe don't have time to read all of our emails or don't have um, capacity to attend that event? And how do we make sure that the reach of that, it doesn't feel like an extra thing, it feels like a connecting thing that's going to be worth my time. So
mm,
we are working on plans for that for next year. I think that a big
uh,
part of what we're working on, building a task force that she would lead for next year, that would be more community run and have some sort of crosstalk with the commission. And this is something that's on her radar that she'd like to get going a little bit more, because we used to have committees like diversity and equity committees at each school that were family committees and family groups. And with the pandemic, that kind of went away. And so they were very organic. They kind of popped up on their own, from what I understand. That was before I was here. But I think what we're learning after the pandemic is that sometimes we as leaders, we need to put the structure in place, provide space, provide the call for people to arrive, and then kind of let things happen. But, those haven't come back up organically. In some cases they have. We have had a couple initiatives where there's been sort of a concerted effort by a group, but she'd like to provide a little bit more space for that. So we're working on that now. If you have ideas, we're happy to hear them. And I
yeah,
think it's mostly about like which groups, where, and are we going to have, is there interest? And how do we get the word out to the people who would be interested? And that's tricky because we're never quite sure unless we start. So that's it. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's where
yeah,
we are with it.
yeah. And another question I have, like, what is the priority activity right now that the group working on?
Priority activity for the Human Rights Commission?
Yes.
That's a question probably for them.
Yep. I don't think-
Yeah, I'm not,
Yeah.
coordinate, they often respond to different, you were on the commission. So that's often a group that is responding to different concerns that come up over the course of the year. That's a big part of what they do. But, I think you raise a very, very important issue right now, which is are people who are immigrants to the United States living in Arlington feeling safe, secure, protected, and welcome? And that's really an important question that the human rights, Dr. Holman is in her leadership team, are thinking about it deeply, which is a great sign. And obviously it's something the Human Rights Commission, that's a question the Human Rights Commission should be asking. I just have one, and if it gets too personal, just ignore the question. But do you think your student, your child, and maybe their friends are feeling comfortable in our town?
Yeah, right now they are feeling, at least for my child, but he have the after school program. So most of the time he in school, so we feel safe for him. But also like our community, I mean, I like Arlington so much.
Yeah.
The community, the safe, we don't encounter any harass or any inappropriate activity around unless our apartment, and we have the kids that come together play. But even sometimes they have some complaint because kids make a lot of sound, a lot of sound or something like that. But that is just like we can deal with our neighbor.
Yeah,
Like
because
that.
in my day job work, I often find that young people, kids, integrate and feel very comfortable. The assimilation machine in this country is so strong; they feel really comfortable. Sometimes their parents are are struggling to navigate. So that was my question, but that's neither here nor there, I guess. All right, but
Yeah.
thanks, Corn. So any more questions? Can I have so just to kind of tell you the process, June 11th, which is a Thursday at 6:30, pending this vote we're about to take, your name goes to the full school committee, and then in the first part of the agenda, you're considered, and you're going to get a link. We're going to make sure you get a link for that. You'll just look on the meeting, for the school committee meeting on the 11th. You'll get a link with information on the that you're going to be on the agenda, and there'll be a chance for you to answer questions in the committee, and they'll ask you some questions. They usually make it briefer because our purpose as a subcommittee is to sort of vet candidates and then make recommendations. All right.
Awesome. Yep.
All right. That's the process. So we're just a subcommittee. The full committee takes the final official vote. So here's the thing. Before we take the vote, this is what I got from Drake, who's the chair of he said vacant AASIP to 10/31/27. And then he's got another one, Griffin Jones, term ends 6/14/26. Next term, I believe Griffin is not seeking appointment. That isn't officially vacant yet because today is so let's just do that. So this makes it easy. Okay, so the motion is to recommend to the full school committee that Dr. Corm be appointed to the Human Rights Commission to a term ending on October 31st, 2027.
So, second.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. It's a unanimous vote. Okay, my friend. So what we're going to do is your name will be here on the 11th, and I'll coordinate with our administrative assistant to make sure that all the materials are uploaded for the agenda on that date. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great of you to do this. We're really honored. I'm honored that you're going to do this.
Thank you. Virtually meeting you guys.
Okay, Corn. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the standing calendar committee. We're at time.
Yes.
Go ahead. So Dr. Holman put
Are
together.
we only 45 minutes today?
No, we're at time. We're at time. Meaning we're right on time.
On time.
On time. Yeah, I meant to say that. That's on time, not at time. So, Dr. Holman wrote this great memo, which I printed out, about forming a calendar committee.
So
Go ahead.
I'm not typically one to say, let's do more committees. Actually, no, that's a lie. I have said this multiple times, but I just realized we actually put committees into the collective bargaining agreement. So yes, I do sometimes ask for more committees. I don't ask for this lightly. And frankly, I think we will do a collective effort regardless of what the wish of the committee is, at least internally. We will be pulling people together to build some of the calendar recommendations because I've thought a lot about this past year and some of the challenges we had last spring and then this fall about the calendar. And we part of our challenge is the sorting through of input from lots of different stakeholders. And a lot of that happens via email. And that's just it's the nature of the system. But one of the things that we've talked about is how we prioritize the connection with someone via phone, via like face to face, have a meeting. If it is something that warrants that kind of time, as opposed to sort of shunting everything into email, which I think can feel easier in the moment, but in the long run is a lot harder. So it's just going to be, I think, a big time saver for us to put at least the internal people in a room together and say, okay, we need you to decide. And I think the charge of this committee would really be to look at the holidays and to vet them, make sure that it's accurate, that we've got the right day for various holidays that we do take off because, and when we do that, that is a capacity concern. Like when we had Good Friday and the Jewish holidays, the reason those are off days is because there's a sort of there's like a capacity issue for the buildings to operate on those days. We have received inquiries from community members about other holidays. The goal of this committee is not to tackle large changes to the calendar. That is not the purpose. If we wanted to assess large changes to the calendar, changing of holidays, changing of structures, a lot of that would have to be done through contract negotiations. A lot of that it's tied to other stuff. So that's not the charge of this. This is really intended to say, okay, what are the major holidays that we typically take off? What are the appropriate days for us to have those days off? What is, based on what we typically do, what is the most appropriate first day of school? Count to 183. Make sure we've got all of 180 for the kids, 183 for the adults. Make sure we have all of those days. When's the best place to take the November professional development day? Is it in November? We could move that around. Where do we have multiple early releases in a single week? Is there any way that we do that? Where should conferences land based on when we're planning to do assessments and where the end of term dates rest at elementary and secondary? So it's really for those conversations. They could also recommend dates for back to school dates so that we can make sure that we are keeping those off of school committee meetings and off of other dates. And then we could turn those dates around to the principals and say, tell us when your back to school nights are. So it's mostly a opportunity for us to put the relevant people in a room 2 or 3 times, probably in the afternoon, evening, and have them hash these things out and bring us some recommendations, which then Liz Diggins turns into a calendar, sends back to the committee, says, look right. People can raise any issues that they see, and then we bring it to the committee. I think this resolves some of the lost notes that were sort of scattered in and amongst various emails. Sometimes we were like reconciling dates. When did this come in? When did this come in? When was this voted? When was that voted? And that can get very confusing quickly if there are multiple meetings where different issues are raised. So I had talked with a colleague in another community who shared that in 2 communities that she's been in, she's superintendent, she's done this. And so she sent me the call for that committee and said that this past year, they're getting so used to this that they did it in one meeting. And this mirrors to some extent her approach to it. I asked Dr. Thomas if she'd be willing to chair the group, and she said yes. And then we would also have Mr. Spiegel be part of that because he had a contractual sort of angle in his mind. We would want a couple of staff representatives. The union could help us identify those folks. A couple of building administrators. The Liz Diggins would be in meetings to make sure she's capturing everything that's going on. A school committee member, if you like, who's on this subcommittee, and or 1 or 2 community members or parents is most of why the ask comes to you all. I think we would do this regardless. The question is simply, do we want to formalize it a little bit more or pilot it with more involvement from families, which I think is a good idea because I also think they're going to see, oh, wait, that week, like that's very disruptive, or that, you know, I heard from this community member who asked if we couldn't adjust when this event happens or something like that. They may provide recommendations for us to consider too that are beyond the scope of what they're asked, and I'm okay with that. It's just that they would know, like, these are the things you're actually charged with giving us recommendations on.
So, I mean, just, so my understanding is the school committee's role here is minimal because you can set up any standing committee you want, superintendent.
I could, and I could just do this operationally,
Yeah.
procedurally.
You're asking for feedback from us.
It's most of what I'm curious about is like, is this compelling? Is it something you want to make more formalized, or that you would want to take a say in sort of appointing some community members or families to? I'd have to think about how we go about.
I'm not sure, like,
listening and
yeah, so I don't know if the school committee even would need to vote on this because it's your standing committee.
We can do this from an
Yeah,
operating.
you can do this from, yeah, so it's not really, I don't think it's.
You end up voting this thing, though. So
Yeah.
if we change the way we're constructing it, I
Yeah.
also want to
Right, okay,
be
yeah,
aware of that.
yeah, okay, fine. So this is the way to get information to the committee for our vote on the calendar.
Yeah, it's a adjusted approach to making sure we get input from
Before you propose it
before
now.
we're drafting this thing
Yeah.
and then discovering issues with it in real time.
I think involving parents and community members would be important just because of the historic dissonance around religious holidays in town. And I think, you know, in having informal conversations with some of the religious leaders and the interfaith group in Arlington, I think having their input would be valuable, and limiting it to, you know, one or two appointed folks or those kinds of things would also help in that when you all are making, you know, administrative decisions, you have that diversity of perspective from the outside, because it does impact families and how they and how they feel included and belonged in the school. And I think we've all heard from community members where they don't always feel like their beliefs or their culture is represented in some of the things in school. And so I think give them opportunity to listen in on the process to get the background, I think is always important. And it provides that level of transparency where people can kind of see how these decisions are made. Right. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the calendar is very complex. I mean, I think that's really what we've seen over this time, and sort of this like live in the moment things is because of how complicated it is. And there are contractual obligations, there are dates set by the state, like, you know, fiscal year has to end on June 30th. So I think having the committee at all I think is a really great idea. As a school committee member who has a lot of feelings about the calendar, I think it would be great to have a committee member on this committee. And I agree with Crystal. I think having community members and parents, I think the religious and cultural piece, but I also think, is it better, you know, we've had this conversation and is it better to have a day off and then a half day the next day, or would it be better to have one every week? Like, having input from, so my personal perspective is I think all the bullet points would be great. As Jeff said, like it's not a school committee subcommittee, it's your operational committee, but I would advocate that it includes parents and
Yeah, I agree with this. I think this is a good idea. I think we should do this. But one question I have is, you know, we often get emails from the community members who want to discuss, you know, religious holiday that isn't recognized often, or people say school should start earlier, not end so late. People say it should never start before Labor Day. You know, you do get these emails all the time. They just kind of happen to come to you. And I think my practice has been just to forward them to the superintendents there, FYI. So I think what would be great is to and I realize lots of other constituents in the district are getting similar concerns, principals especially, I'm sure from their staff and other department heads. And so I think it would be helpful for us to know where we send the questions that come to us.
Yeah.
That would be important to kind of set up a process where if you get an email from someone raising a question about a religious holiday that isn't recognized, please send it to, you
Me.
know, Superintendent Holman or whoever it is. But then we need to know that.
I think most of you do.
Most of us do. So then,
Yeah.
then you can forward to this, whoever is the record keeper for this committee, the chair or Rob or whoever.
I mean, Liz Diggins, so she gets them.
And then she would
She sends them
somehow
to me.
kind of collect it all so that the issue of Diwali is at least talked about in this committee. The issue of Eid is at least is discussed in this committee. And if there's a process this committee thinks is important to get committee input, this committee does the process, implements the process to get the input from the public.
Yeah.
And I also think it'll help you maybe catch whatever, you know, having all these stakeholders in the room, you might catch something that is operational,
Yes.
operationally you haven't seen before, or you're not, because you're just trying to get this done.
This is most of
Yeah.
it, really.
Yeah.
Like, it's the catches. We find it, because it's so complex and complicated, we find these little things.
Yeah.
And but I really don't enjoy finding those
I know.
in the middle of the race.
And
It's just not.
And one other kind of procedural step, again, is at some point, it may be good for this committee, and maybe this already happens and I missed it this past year, to come out with the draft calendar, bring it to this subcommittee, and then open it up to the public and say, we're gonna be discussing the draft 27, 28 calendar, whatever it is. The committee, the Superintendent Standing Committee put a lot of work into this, and anybody who has an interest can come and talk. You know, because I think it just allows different voices to be heard in the room.
I like that.
And it may not result, and so I would just add a clause there that, you know, the committee will bring a draft calendar to the community relations subcommittee at some point, and at some point during the year, prior to approval by the full committee, the full school committee. It just feels like a good procedural step, and that's a chance to have publish the meeting, let people know we're talking about a calendar, and people with concerns.
Similar to our rentals.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Big rental thing. Yeah, that's right. Big rental.
I like it. On the holidays note, my first or second year, we had a calendar committee. And the primary goal of that group, they really wanted to look at the holidays.
I know.
We started to dig into that. We did a survey, we got feedback. And the sort of climate of the world at the time, I mean, the war in Gaza and Israel started immediately, sort of as we were finishing up some recommendations for that. I learned a lot from some of our big leaders in town about the Jewish holidays and how they function in Jewish culture. And as a result of that, we didn't end up adjusting the dates. However, you know, since then, I have also heard from members of the Jewish faith, other members of the community, that acknowledgement is also very important. I think from a sort of constraints perspective, we have to get all of it in within boundaries that are contractual and or fiscal.
Yeah.
And I've watched other communities and how they grapple with this in our immediate area. Newton takes Lunar New Year. They also take both Jewish holidays. They also tend to start after Labor Day. And my kids are done on the same day as I am. So I'm curious about, I'm not done, but school ends on the same day. And so I'm curious about how other communities have wrapped some of these holidays in. To my knowledge, Newton is one of very few that's taken Lunar New Year off, but there is a growing population of families that celebrate that in Arlington. And it has been growing since I've been here. And the Lunar New Year celebration that they have here at the high school is huge, packed. So I do think, like, we send a signal meaningfully or meaning to or not when we take a holiday. And I'm open to this committee picking some of that up. What I'd like them to do this first year is just make the decisions that typically we make.
Right.
And recommending a calendar, maybe bring a draft to the committee.
Yeah.
Giving us the opportunity to hear from the community and then see how that goes.
Yeah.
Learn from it. And then if there are bigger rocks they want to sort of dig into in year two, open it up for them to gather and look back and maybe offer some alternatives. I do think the compromise around taking one of the religious holidays for the Jewish community, but I would need their input on what's
Right.
most appropriate.
Right.
And one of the other holidays from this very diverse community could make some sense, and I'd be open to that. And I think there's a good case for that, but I want them to grapple with it, talk about it, get feedback on it, and all of that, and having a body to do it. So,
Yeah, sure. And I think opening up that process will allow you to be able to have those conversations.
and then,
Yeah.
so administratively, I plan to do this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll inform the committee.
Yeah.
In an update and ask if there's anyone who particularly wants to join. However, if any of you want to do it,
Yeah. I mean, it's.
I can just tell them. who's
It
gonna-
says, I personally believe it should be someone who serves in the community, so I like the way you've written this personally, but I don't know how the rest of the committee will feel.
Do you think like it would be something that Laura would need to, appoint, like the chair would need to appoint?
Well, she would, yeah, because, no, how does that work? Yeah, it would be one of the,
It would be like it's solicit. interest.
we would vote a member.
Committee would have-
Yeah. So one school committee member, with preference for someone who serves on the community relations subcommittee, I would word it that way. That way,
Okay,
with preference.
so procedurally, I asked Laura to solicit interest.
Yeah.
On the committee.
Yeah.
For this.
Yeah, I would do it next week on the 11th.
Mhm.
Okay.
A lot happening in the meeting I'm not attending. I think it's going to be a great meeting.
I don't think they did, but-
I think it's gonna be a great meeting.
It'll be a great meeting. Griffin. Have a great time.
Laura's got it all under control.
I have to
Laura and Mona.
I gotta
Confident.
communicate all these results.
Probably on Zoom.
All right.
Chunks of it.
Any other items? This meeting is over with almost on time. Huh?
Yeah.
Kind of motion to adjourn the meeting?
So much.
Motion by Liz Exton to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
By Ms. Haynes Capelthorn, and the chair, and there's no discussion. The chair votes yes, it's a unanimous vote.